Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you so kindly for being a part of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have an excellent show for you today. You know what we're talking about today? Student loan. Well, not student loans per se. The attack on students, which means pretty much student loans. So, yes, we're talking about student loans. But before we get started, I want to remind all the folks that are listening to me, those who constantly watch the program, please remember that the first things that we ask you to do is to go ahead and share the program on your wall, share the program on your page, share the program on Twitter, share the program on Tumblr, share the program on Instagram, share the program on all of your social media. And for those millennials that are listening, for those that are in debt right now, for those that are watching, this doesn't only apply, by the way, to millennials. This doesn't only apply to current students. This applies to every single American who has a loan out. And you know, there are people 18 years out of college that are still paying their loans off. By the time I took care of paying my daughter's undergrad, but she's going to medical school. She went to a few, got her master's, etc. By the time it's all over, her debt load is going to be huge. Now, we need to do something about that, folks, and it starts by, you know what? It starts by ensuring college doesn't cost as much as it costs, and it starts by ensuring that we realize that in educating our people is an investment. It's not yet something else that the corporate state should be taking care of. It isn't something yet that somebody should be making a hell of a lot of money on, because, again, debt is another way of paying the corp twice, right? You borrow them. Well, we're going to go into that a little bit later. But before we get on to all of that, I want to bring up a few issues here. Let me see if I brought it on here. And again, we're going to talk student loans. But before we talk student loans, of course, the first thing I also bring onto the show is to let you know that this is a progressive show. This is a show that depends on you. We know that CNBC and all these other stations have big corporate donors. Their advertising is made by all the drug companies and the oil companies, etc. And guess what? If you are being if you are being supplied to, your income is being supplied by the oil companies, the drug companies, and everybody else. Guess what that means? That actually means then that you cannot have people learning the evils of what the oil companies are doing, the evils of what the banking industry is doing, the evils of what the drug industry is doing. For those that are coming in just now, we're getting a lot of inflows in. Please do remember, folks, to go ahead and share this program on your wall. I urge you, I ask you, I plead to you, if we are going to get our message across, the progressive message across, if we are going to give Americans a chance to really hear some truth, if we are going to give Americans a chance to really, for once, not have to be dependent on the corporate media where they cannot trust the information, neither right or left, because, again, they have other ulterior motives. Our ulterior motive is you. So, folks, what I'm asking you, first of all, is keep us on air. Do remember that this is a progressive show, so please go ahead and go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right, and buy us a coffee. Go ahead and subscribe to Politics Done Right. It is essential. It is essential. If you're just approaching the show right now, please go ahead and share on Facebook. But we need you to go to patreon.com/politics done right. If you are watching this on our page, the link is right there under this post, under this video. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio or Coffee Party Radio, just do remember to go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. Before we get into let's go ahead and tell you what's going to be all about. The title of the show today is Democrats Must Use Mulvaney's Attack on Students as a Campaign Issue. Very important. And if you remember in past shows, we talk about Democrats need to have 5 issues on the tip of their tongues. Very important why they need that. Because again, Republicans are very good at simplifying issues, very good at it, and simplifying them into very effective and very orchestrated lies. They're very, very good at what they do. In fact, if you watched Bill Maher, I can't put it onto the screen like I would like to hear because, again, that is copyrighted from HBO. But if you listen to what Bill Maher had to say when he had Congressman Duncan Hunter on, he spoke about how he respected Duncan Hunter because when it was time for Duncan Hunter to say, Scott Pruitt, the environmental director, should go because of all that he's done, overspending the taxpayers' money, buying stuff that he shouldn't be buying, deregulating laws that shouldn't be deregulating, allowing chemicals to be in your water, and we're going to talk about that as a news item just before we do the blog of the week. It is very, very important that Democrats also be able to do that. Those newcomers that are coming, please go ahead and share this on your wall. Please share this on your wall, share this on Twitter, share this everywhere because we are going to be the ones making a difference in the progressive sphere. And if we say progressive sphere, we mean American sphere because the vast majority of Americans don't buy what the mainstream media is telling you. The vast majority of Americans are liberals. The vast majority of Americans are progressives. The reason they don't call themselves that is because of how that has been maligned by the right. But if you ask everybody what's their wants, what's their needs, it turns out that their wants and their needs are that of which progressives are providing. Don't be fooled and don't let the rhetoric fool you, my dear friends. Anyway, title of the show, Democrats must use Mulvaney's attack on students as a campaign issue. Subtitle, Mulvaney's opening the door for loan sharks to rob students blind, and it must be exploited politically. We must make sure and make this a political move because, again, this is a political move to save not only your students, to save not only your children, but many times to save those of you in your childbearing ages, those of you who would want to buy homes, etc., etc., etc. Anyhow, here we go. By now you've heard my broken record. We are not concentrating on the issues that affect our American sisters and brothers. We don't concentrate on the issues that we should be concentrating on right now, my friends. We can blame the mainstream broadcast media for not informing Americans at the decimation of our government structures occurring in the background. As we know, the Trump administration is currently decimating the state, and they said they were going to do that, and they're actually doing it. They said they will get rid of this state as we know it, the United States as we know it. Trump and his appendages have already said they are going to destroy. They like to call it the deep state and all kinds of stuff they like to call it. They're doing that to malign it and then to destroy it. Destroy the structures that keep us as a legal entity, a structure that makes sure that we don't have people taking advantage of. Donald Trump and them, they are destroying them. And why are they destroying it? Because they want to have corruption, laissez-faire corruption. That is what they want. That is what they're currently having. As you can see, Donald Trump sells the presidency right now. He has people coming in from all over the world, giving him a deal. He'll give them a piece of the United States. Give me another deal, you'll get another piece of the United States. Give me a deal from China, and guess what I do? I'll make sure that the Chinese have a whole lot of work. To hell with our American workers that we promised we would somehow, with his administration, get them working. Folks, wake up. The Trump voter, I need you. I need you so badly to wake up. I need you so badly to see what is being done to you. And here's the deal, Trump voter. Most of what Trump is taking away, he's not taking away from them liberals now. He's taking it away from you. Remember, most of you who voted for Trump are in red states. Most of you who voted for Trump are on the right side. Most of you who voted for Trump are poor. And those things that they don't tell you comes from us, those of us that pay a hell of a lot of taxes and don't mind, they're coming to you. And they're coming to you because you're the same people who claim to want to support you. They're not putting the industry in your regions so that you can be employed. When you hear Trump bringing back coal, that is not helping a hell of a lot of people in West Virginia or Western Ohio or any of these places. When you hear coal, what is happening is he's taking you to the past to a past that has no future. Because again, all companies are getting away from coal, moving to gas because it burns cleaner, because it's more efficient, because it's easier to handle than trainloads of coal just being piped in. Coal is dead. What Hillary said was right. I'm not a Hillary supporter, but what she said is right. It is dead. Trump and these guys instead could have brought all kinds of industries into your areas, my dear Trump voters, my dear Trump supporters. Trump had the ability to bring renewable energy into your domain. They could have brought a whole lot of cell companies. They could have brought a whole lot of companies that build solar cells and all these other types of businesses. They could have said, we have good labor in places that are not expensive to live, and we can provide you guys with employment if we go ahead and change our energy source. But if you're owned by an oil company or the oil companies, if you're owned by the mining companies, then everything you see is through the eyes of the miner and the petroleum producer. And in that case, it is, we don't want solar energy to become more efficient. We don't want wind energy to become more efficient. We don't want all these other forms of energy to become efficient. Let's wait till we develop algae to create yet some sort of oil again that we can burn. Folks, Trump supporter, Trump voter, I'm talking to you civilly with respect, my dear friend. They are screwing you. You're the party that claims to want your vote, the party that claims to want and support your vote. They're screwing you royally. They're taking your jobs away. They're trying to put you in jobs that are dead end jobs. Please do remember that. If you doubt me, just do your research, my dear friends. Anyhow, some journalists in print media, though not necessarily in vogue for a large percentage of Americans who consume their news mostly through cable or broadcast news, is doing a good job. Yeah, the print media is doing a good job. A lot of them are. The problem is that the broadcast and cable networks are not sufficiently giving them coverage. Now, if people are not reading a hell of a lot of newspapers or newspapers online, and they're idolizing MSNBC, CNBC, NBC, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, and all these guys, and these guys are not covering or using these print media that are good as their raw material, then America stays uninformed. One of the things bloggers do, like myself, national bloggers, we aggregate those stories and we add the dimension to those stories. And we make sure that those stories get out to you. So when you go to egbertowillies.com, you can be guaranteed to see. Today we had some stories from our Protect Our Care. We illustrate exactly how the decimation of Obamacare is occurring under President Trump and how your bills are going to skyrocket over the next year. Next year, when you'll have a shock in October. Folks, if you're just coming on and got a large influx, please do remember to go ahead and share this on your wall. So very important for us to make sure our people, all people, are informed. Folks, look, right now, they're decimating. They are decimating all that matters to you. And this is not hyperbole. This is just a fact, a verifiable fact that we should be into. So that is what the alternative, that is why the alternative media, progressive media is here for now and going forward. That is why we're here. That is why you need the Politics Done Right. That is why you need the TYTs. That is why you need the Majority Report. That is why you need all these other, in these cases, we are all small, right? In my case, between 10,000 and 50,000 viewers on each of these vlogs or whatever. In the case of, let's say, TYT, they have a few 100,000, but the country is, we're talking about millions, right? So we need to have many bloggers out there. We need to have many vloggers out there. We need to have many of these programs out here, and we are one of many, and we are doing our job to do our best in keeping you informed. So that is what the alternative media is. Progressive media is here for now and going forward. And today we will address one of those topics. Donald Trump's interim director of the Consumer Financial Protection Board is about to put students in danger from America's major predator. We will discuss this in our blog of the week. And before I get to the blog of the week, though, I want to give you a little bit of news, and that is from Slate. Earlier, we were talking about Scott Pruitt and how Bill Maher made fun of Duncan Hunter. But what he did show is respect for Duncan Hunter, because Duncan Hunter came on Bill Maher and he was wrong. He was completely wrong. They proved him wrong. They said he was wrong. And they pointed out everything that Scott Pruitt was doing negatively to the country, and said that Scott Pruitt needed to step down. And they asked Duncan Hunter, a Republican congressman from California, so is it time to get rid of Scott Pruitt, who has really broken the law and done a whole lot of bad things? And he looked with a straight face and said, oh, no, this is all overblown. And, the panel went berserk. The panel was like, wait a minute, we know all the bad things that this guy has done. How can you dare say that we shouldn't get rid of this guy? And Duncan Howard stoically said, no, he shouldn't be, he should remain. And what happened thereafter? Bill Maher said something that was so true. I respect that. That is why they win. That is why Republicans win. That's why Democrats lose. And then he said, hey, Duncan Hunter, can you come tutor us? We don't need tutoring. We don't need tutoring at all. We just need our grassroots to stand up for what they believe in. Notice I said our grassroots. I didn't say we need our party. I said we need our democratic grassroots to stand up and take what's theirs and force what's theirs, and not listen to what the party wants to do in the middle, but force what Americans want, as we were discussing yesterday as well. That's what we need to do. Anyway, in the news, from Slate Magazine, and this is important, folks. Stay with me here, and then we'll go to the blog of the week. But stay with me here. This is very important. Newly released emails have shown, from Slate, that the Environmental Protection Agency and the White House halted the publication of new research on chemical pollutants after one White House official warned of the potential public relations nightmare publishing the research could bring. So you have a president that is willing to get Americans sick or killed because his environmental director will not release a report that shows that chemicals they thought were not as dangerous as they really are. Isn't that a form of murder? Isn't that a form of murder? I mean, you can't say otherwise. This is a form of murder, folks. You have a government that is saying they are willing to isolate what's causing harm to their people because it may create, a potential public relations nightmare. We have a caller, and we don't get a lot of calls. A lot of people listen to the program. If I look at my stats for the blog post, it's great, but you don't like to call in. I got a caller now, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring that caller in right now. So let's see. That caller is at 8. Oh, the caller left. Huh. All right. Caller, if you're there, come back in and I'll put you immediately on air. Anyhow, just call back in and I'll get you on air right away. Let's see. Continuing with the news feed. So publishing the research could bring, according to a report by Politico, the Health and Human Services Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, had concluded that pollutants produced by large chemical plants, like we have lining the ship channel here in Pasadena, a place we call Cancer Alley, and military bases. So, a lot of people want those military bases, but they have a whole lot of toxic stuff too. All those bullets and with lead and all those guns with acetylene and all these other chemicals. They pose a danger to human health at levels lower than previously thought. That finding could lead to a far higher cost for companies and for the Defense Department if it translated into higher standards for cleaning up water sources to prevent contamination. I'm not done with that article, but I want to show you how these people think and how little they think about you, right? They had no problems writing a tax bill, a tax cut scam that gave away most of the monies, the $1.5 trillion to a whole bunch of wealthy folk. They had no problem doing that. Not only did they not have problem doing that, they had no problem doing that on not having the funds to do that. So they borrowed the money to give wealthy people. But the reason why They won't tell Americans that living close to bases, living close to these oil plants and refineries are going to make you sicker than we thought. What's the reason again? What is the reason again? If translated into higher standards for cleaning up water sources to prevent contamination, the prices would go up. Wow. Do you see your importance in America under your current government? They are saying it shows you where they put their money shows what their interests are. If they put their money into giving unpaid for tax cuts to wealthy people, and at the same time, your chemical plants, they know, are causing you harm. They know that, right? They know it's causing you harm. They know it's giving you cancer. They are taking away health care. They're making health care more expensive. So here's the deal. The plutocrats, the rich folks who own the chemical companies and who runs the bases, because a lot of private industry actually run these bases, they get tax cuts, tax breaks. They get tax breaks. With borrowed money, you get sick because those people don't live near the plants. Those people don't live on base. So you get sick. And after you get sick, you don't have many times the insurance to get healed. Wow. So they get a tax break. They don't tell you that you can get sicker. They go ahead and they take away your insurance. And at the same time, when it's time to pay the bill, the government borrows from the rich people they gave the money to in the first place, who then charges you interest to make even more money. If Americans could really grasp the level of thievery, the theft that is occurring here, folks, I think I itemized that as best I could. But it's really happening. And a lot of people don't see it because it's not right there in the front of your head. But you have the same companies that are getting tax breaks, polluting the environment. You pay to clean the environment. You pay for your health care when you get sick. And most of the times the government doesn't want to assist. And the tax break that they get was paid with borrowed dollars. And the interest on the borrowed dollar, and by the way, and who loaned them the borrowed dollar? Who loaned the government the borrowed dollars? The same rich people that got the tax cut loaned the government the borrowed dollars so that they can continue to function. But for that, they charge a high interest rate. Well, it's going up now. And who pays the interest rate? You do. So they get you in all directions. They're just taking and taking. And the student, this stuff with the CFPB is going to make a whole lot of sense now, because don't think this doesn't tie in with our subject of student loans today, because it does. And it's important for you to grasp it. But I need for you to see the thievery in everything that we're talking about here. It is so important how the government, led by money in politics from the wealthy, are stealing your money blind, and they are ensuring that most Americans, only the chosen, will be able to be wealthy because they will get the path to wealth. Only a few. The few that we selected to do our books, the few that we've selected to do these items, they will join the club. Most Americans can't. Most Americans will never. And again, when we get into tying in with the student loan issues, you'll quite see that. Why? Why will you tolerate this from, first of all, Republicans? And why will you tolerate this from establishment Democrats? The only answer to the question is to ensure that a whole bunch of progressives get elected. I don't care if some of the progressives turned out to be Republicans, but we know right now they're not. I don't know of any of those, to tell you the truth. Right now, all the progressives are on the Democratic side. Folks, this is real. The thievery is real. The theft is real. And some Democrats are, in fact, complicit in said theft. And unless we're honest enough, I've been getting beaten up online recently. I just got beat up again on medium.com where they are accusing me of maligning the party and making it difficult for the party to win, which is not what I am doing in no way. What I'm doing is elevating the progressives to win, elevating the progressives to join the fold, and to get involved into the sphere and win. And I'm trying to inform Americans in a civil, dignified manner to tell you that when you go to the polls, not only in November, but in the primaries, it is your duty if you please go ahead and validate everything that I just said about the money movement. Okay, please do. Don't take my word for it. It's not hard to find. Just go ahead and look up our budget and you see how much we pay in interest and see where the interest goes. Don't take my word for it. You can look it up. Go ahead and figure out if the tax cuts were not really paid for with borrowed dollars. Don't listen to my word. You can look it up. Go ahead and see if in Houston area there's a place called Cancer Alley, because we know these plants generate a whole lot of toxicity to the body, which eventually for some people would be cancerous. Go ahead and check to see if all the externalities from burning all this fuel is not making us sick, and that we don't have that priced into gasoline or taxed into what we make these corporations pay, but we hold the bag. Please find out. And when you find that out, there was only one way in which you should be voting, and that is progressives who will actually look out for your well-being, not the well-being of a few, but your well-being. Let me finish this article here. It says, but it has been more than 3 months since the study was finished, and the HHS confirmed that there is no plan to publish its results. The EPA defended the inaction as a matter of taking the time to coordinate responses to local, state, and congressional constituents and partners. Really? Why should we allow more people to die so that you can accommodate whether states are going to act? And we know exactly how red states are going to act. They won't. Why are we going to accommodate that? Why? Folks, if you're just joining the show, I ask you kindly to please share this on your wall. It is so important for us to get real information out because, as we said, our mainstream media, they're not bad people. They're just compromised. If you were getting ads from all these other major players, if you're getting ads from the drug companies, the oil companies, the mining companies, and everybody else, how effective can your journalistic prowess be if you're dependent on them for your income? And in that process, we're at near the halfway of the show. I'd like to ask those of you who are watching the show to go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that's patreon.com/politicsdoneright. If you are on our page, you can click on that link directly. So very important for us to keep this alive. I don't only talk about this myself. I am a supporter myself financially of the dailycoast.com, opednews.com, the democraticunderground.com, or rather democraticunderground.com, coffeepartyusa.com, as well as, of course, I support the Democratic Party in several flavors, state flavor and county flavor. So no, in as much as I am colored by the Democratic Party and that's the one that I support, I feel just as I give to the party, I feel it's my responsibility to point out the deficiencies within the party. And for that, I'm taking a whole lot of flack all over the place right now online. But you know what? Reality requires, if we really want to win in November, we really want a progressive win in November, we need to get progressives elected, and we need to be able to identify who progressives are. And by the way, for progressive progressive candidates all over this country, what I want to do as Politics Done Right and several of some others is to highlight our progressive candidates in states all over the country. We have a national reach. So what I'd like to tell the ones that I'm not aware of, I'm aware of quite a few, but there's some that I'm not aware of. I'm not in your state. I just drop a line to info@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, go to info@politicsdoneright.com. And if you're a progressive candidate that's just not getting the time of day that's a real progressive, come on the show and we'll most definitely get you the necessary airtime. Again, for those of you that are just joining us, we ask you to share on your page, share on your wall, share via Twitter, share everywhere so that we can get this information out. And again, to support us like we support many others, please go ahead and go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. We trust me. We do a whole lot with your support. Your support took us to the Democratic Convention. Your support took us to the Women's March. Your support took us to the gun march that we had in Washington, D.C. Your support does a lot, and we need to make sure that we can have the message. We need to make sure that we can continue telling the message. We'll be supporting all progressive candidates throughout the entire country. Now, you know what time it is, right, folks? I think you all know what time it is.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, first of all, we had a caller earlier today, and I don't know if I hung him up by mistake or hung her by mistake, so do feel free to call back. It's 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I'll say it slower. Some people say I speak fast sometimes. 646-716-5812. Here it goes. The title is Democrats, This Move Against Students is a Huge Campaign Issue. Stop talking Stormy Daniels. That'll take care of itself. Stop talking Russia. That'll take care of itself. Let's talk bread and butter. Let's talk about what America needs. Let's talk about what people are striving for, what people are begging for. Stormy Daniels ain't paying no bills. Neither is Russia. And that is over. Those are things that are already happening or already happened. Let's let the other folks take care of that. But let the progressives now take care of Americans, take care of the American brothers and sisters. Let's do that. Let's for once not worry about what the plutocracy or what the elitists believe is the order of the day, where they can spend all their time. MSNBC, the most progressive station, I love them dearly. I love Rachel. I love Chris Hayes. I love them all. But to spend all their time on issues not related to economics, on issues not related to the personal economy of Americans, is also a dereliction of duty. And the reason why? Because this election ultimately is going to turn on how people feel about their personal economies. Okay, as Americans are fed daily doses of Stormy Daniels' Russia, possible Trump money laundering and pay for play by his administration, his peons are changing policies that will allow their corporate benefactors to rip off Americans further. Yes, to rip off Americans further. This time, student borrowers, irrespective of age, is on the block. You are on the block if you owe money, students and adults. Earlier, I pointed out in a blog post that Democrats must have 5 specific issues that should roll off of their tongues in a district-specific manner as they campaigned and every time they appear before any form of media. Okay, and these are what I want to do here is tell folks what those items are, because anybody that's just picking up the show, it is imperative that you know what that is. And those 5 items are: Democrats will fix the healthcare issue once and for all by instituting a single-payer Medicare for all system. 2, Democrats will provide student loan relief. Número 3, Democrats will provide need-based subsidized child care for anyone who wants to work. Number 4, Democrats will decriminalize marijuana and treat drug use as the disease that it is. And número 5, Democrats will make the criminal justice system live up to the justice is blind motto. And to corroborate that, because when you say those things, a lot of people, the first thing that they want to say is, oh, you're giving away. And I'm getting back to student loan in a minute. Folks that are just coming on, please share on your page. Very important. Please share on your wall. Share this video, please. Here's the deal. When I tell folks all these things that people want, all these people, that those 5 issues, when I said it originally on KPFT, a caller said, wait, I mean, the Republicans are going to spin that like a handout. And then I immediately said, okay, you know what? That's why I love my callers. I have the smartest callers. I have the smartest listeners all the time. And I said, you know what? You're right. They're going to spin it that way. So you also have to have a very short narrative, and it goes as follows. Those 5 bullet points expressed in different terms will work in every district in America. It appeals to millennials, people of color, all working class people, parents, and every demographic in between. Most importantly, these bullet points afford Americans a path to self-sufficiency. It frees them from the aberrations in the economy that stunts innovation, the ability to start one's business, and the dependency and the enslavement to the corporation. One would hope that every Democrat who gets onto Fox, MSNBC, and all the other news networks are ready, or simply and absolutely ready, to tell Americans this is what they're going to do for them. Americans, you have a reason to vote for progressives because they are going to fight like hell to solve these problems. And back to the student loan. Students, another sacrificial lamb of the Trump administration. So the New York Times illustrates why one of the issues in this list is so important: student loan relief. They report the following. Mick Mulvaney, the interim director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, will move the agency's student loan division into the Bureau's Consumer Information Unit, a shift that career officials fear will sidetrack a major enforcement case the agency is pursuing against Navient, the nation's largest student loan collector. The change, outlined in an email sent to the Bureau's staff Wednesday morning, is part of an effort by Mr. Mulvaney to refocus the agency away from its consumer finance enforcement and rule writing mission and more toward providing consumers with information about their legal rights. It follows a similar move Mr. Mulvaney made. I don't even know why we call him Mr. Mulvaney. I'm going to give him that honor. It follows a similar move Mulvaney made in February when he folded the Bureau's Fair Lending Division into the Consumer Unit, telling staff it would continue to focus on advocacy, coordination, and education. Among the Bureau's career staff, the shift was regarded as a new attack on one of the Bureau's core statutory function and another attempt by Mr. Mulvaney and his team to dismantle a consumer watchdog reviled by President Trump. Why do you think they hate the CFPB? You know why they hate it? They hate it because it protects Americans from people like Trump who ripped them off, who gave them a university that was no university, who took their money and left them dumb, who took their money and gave them nothing for it. That's why he hates these enforcement agencies, because it means charlatanes como charlatans like Mr. Trump will not be able to do the damage that he's done on thousands of American citizens. They don't want that. They want this business class, this very small, evil, and I'm small. I mean, all the business is not bad. I'm talking a small, evil business class to continue to have the power to continue to pilfer Americans. One person at the Bureau familiar with the student loan office's work said it clearly was being targeted. Mr. Mulvaney's reorganization left untouched several other groups with similar specific focus, including offices that concentrate on protecting service members and older Americans. John Swartaki, a spokesman for the agency, called the move a very modest organizational chart change. Huh? Who do you try to fool, buddy? This deliberate act means a complete loss of protection for student private loan recipients. You know, my daughter have quite a few private student loans in med school as well. You know what I mean? This affects every corner of society. Every corner. Every single corner who has student debt. Because now these charlatanes are going to be able to come out there and rip you off. They're going to be able to change their rates at will. You know, if you read your clauses in these documents, there are extenuating circumstances where certain things can change. And some of it is in fine letters that you can't really discern or that nobody reads when they sign some of these contracts. Well, no longer can you go ahead and say, hey, we were cheated, we were screwed, we were misled. You can no longer do that. Or you will no longer be able to do that. At a time where Americans are saddled with $1.5 trillion in student loan debt, the last thing we should do is tear away critical support. So why would would the Trump administration attack students in this manner? New York Times DC correspondent's tweet hits the nail on the head. The CFPB is announcing its reorganization plan in a 10 a.m. meeting email per sources in the outside of the bureau, with likely plans to fold student loan divisions, which has been aggressively investigating Navient for predatory practices into the consumer loan unit. And there's your answer. They want, just like they want the investigation to stop on Trump, so they're trying to dismantle the state, the portion of the state that is taking care of that. The same applies to student loans. Navient, who's been ripping off students, they are now legally ripping them off, I can say to some extent. They can now get a reprieve. They have their man in office. So, who pays? Students. You do. You do. So, here's the issue. This is an issue that affects Americans of all ages, but likely most millennials. This affects the personal economies of millions. Stormy Daniels does not. Do you want people to have something to vote for? Let them know you will solve the student debt abuse by corporations and you will provide debt relief. Folks, that's the end of the blog of the week. And I tell you something, folks. This is more serious than many believe. This is serious. Because 1.5 trillion in student debt, I think I looked that up here, is more. Let me see if I can find that article. If it's, I think this is where it's at. It's not there. I had an article here that itemized how big the student debt burden was. And that student debt burden is larger than our credit card debt. It is larger than our credit card debt. Let me tell you what that does to you. But before I do that, there's this article that was on Bustle. And the title of the article, it's written by a young lady, Caitlin Cawley, said, I paid $18,000 to a $24,000 student loan, and I still owe $24,000. We all know that's because of interest. But we also know that many 18, 19, 20-year-old students, when they signed those contracts, didn't realize that the several years that they were in school, the interest was accruing on those loans. They didn't know that. And you can say, well, they signed a contract. They should have read the contract. And so that is okay for them to be pilfered because they were naive. And for that, they will suffer for the rest of their lives because they no longer can afford the home. For most, yeah, some of them are going to get very good professional jobs, but some of them are going to have one of the most important professions in the world and will get paid very little for it, teachers. They would have spent $100,000 to get their degree for a salary before taxes of $40,000 to $50,000. And with that, supposed to pay their bill back, have a home, have kids, and have a middle-class life for a profession that they spent 4 years or more for. There are consequences to predatory lending to a generation, which is what we've done. And the upper Gen Xers and the baby boomers should be fighting like hell for our millennials and our lower Gen Xers who are in debt up the gazoo for two reasons. One, morally, it's the right thing to do. When the Gen Xers and the baby boomers went to school, we had governments that believed in investing in people. We had governments that allowed the taxes to go into the school system and support giving folks lower cost tuition. Look, I came to the United States in 1979 and went to college. For a while before I became a resident of Texas, a resident of the United States of America, when I was still on my, I think it's called I-20, as a foreign student, I paid foreign student tuition. In-state Texas students paid $4 per hour. Out-of-state tuition or international tuition was 10 times that, $40 an hour. Personally, I thought that was obscene, that I was paying 10 times more as somebody from the state. But then I acknowledge that the person from the state was supported by the taxpayers of the state, and me coming in from another country to be educated here, I had to pay that differential. Okay, that was a fair thing. Later on, as I paid taxes, working, getting a visa to work, at that point of time, I was a part of society. And when I became a citizen of Texas, I was able to get better rates for the last, I think, year and a half or two of college. But now, not even $40 per semester hour, folks. These students are getting ripped off in every direction, from fees to tuition to every particular cost. Even the apartment owners are ripping them off. My daughter, 2 people to an apartment, little apartment, $1,500 each. Because they're at a college, supply and demand, right? Where in a society do you not invest in what's going to make you better? And that is what we have with our student loan issues. The student loan, by having the student loans where we are today, this is what happens, folks. If you end up owing $100,000 when you get out of college, and by the way, I know my daughter's going to owe orders of magnitude or many times that. But if you owe $100,000 in debt for college, that is money that you are just sending to the banker. That is money that's not recirculating in the economy in the most efficient fashion, because it is going to those who already have money to loan out to somebody else. However, if those loans were forgiven or did not occur in the first place because we had sensible taxes that invested in our young people, that invested in our people, those same people that got the type of tuition that I paid, even at the high rate of $40 an hour or at the low rate of $4 an hour, which in inflated dollars should be around, let's say, $20 an hour, they would instead invest that money into buying a home. Because they bought a home, the home builder would have had to buy blocks and wood and nails and hire more people to build that home. And all the people that are building that home would be going to the grocery store, would be going to the restaurant. It would make a much more vibrant economy. But why is it that the bankers don't want that? Because it's not a concentration of wealth. You see, if they're just collecting that $100,000 from you, all goes to them. Yeah, they may talk about expanded economy if we spread the wealth around, if more people, if it's redistributed better and more people are able to spend. Yes, the whole economy would be bigger, but it will also be shared with more people, which means when they do their averaging, they figure we screw a lot of people, we make a ton of money. We screw nobody, we make a lot of money. So they pick, we make a ton of money. It is so essential for you to understand how our economy works, because it is how our economy works that screw us all. The student loan crisis is in effect a crisis. This article in Bustle titled, "I've paid $18,000 for $24,000 student loan and I still owe $24,000, says that her labor, the sole purpose of her labor is to support the banking industry, the financial sector. The sole purpose of all those people that are going to be getting out of college with $500,000 in loan, $400,000 in loan, $300,000 in loans, is to support a system, a decrepit system based on abuse. Not a system that said, let's invest in people. I'm not saying invest in bombs. Invest in people. You keep the grade, you get to go to school. And you make a more intelligent country. And a more intelligent country would never have elected a Donald Trump who is decimating the country right now. Even though there are some intelligent folks that are voting for him on false pretenses, decimating our country. Folks, telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. How would I love to hear from somebody's voice? But I will then now go to the wall and see what you guys have to say. I think I see a whole lot of writing on the wall. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. But people. You can't keep buying what they're selling you. You cannot keep buying what you're hearing on TV, in the news, etc. Because that's not how things really work. And you know how you know it's how things don't really work? Because no matter what they say, no matter how they say it, you're still in the same state. You're not building your fortune. You're not building your wealth. Because every time somebody's to get a raise in a job, that money goes into the health insurance. So therefore, you get no raise or little raise. And that money that would have been yours gets into the pockets of the few owners of the insurance companies and the doctors, but the hospital shareholders and the doctor company shareholders, etc. So every time you are to get a raise, there's an excuse. And that excuse is, well, we can't afford to because your healthcare cost has increased. And by the way, even though we're going to pay more for your healthcare, guess who's going to pay more too? You too. We'll have more deductibles. We have higher co-pays and all of that. All of that needs to be eliminated. We need no co-pays. You walk into the doctor and you get service. Welcome, Elaine Kimsey, Michael Rudnin, Bruce Pollard, Michael Cisak. Let's see who else. Michael Rudnin, I got you. Leo B. Aquino Jr., welcome aboard. Bruce, welcome aboard. Mike, I got Michael already. Daniel Ledo. Let's see anybody else that's new to the show. Okay, all right. Bruce Pollard, Social Security. Will Social Security go up a lot even though the inflation is low? No. Okay, I don't exactly know what you mean, but here's the two things. If you're talking about the payments that people receive per month in Social Security, as long as there's inflation, but by the way, the index for inflation under Social Security, if I recall, is a bit less generous than the real inflation rate of the country. And they have, I think they computed on something called, what is it called? No, it's not yet done that way, but they were trying. In fact, Obama was a culprit that had to be brought down on that. I think it's called trailing CPI or something like that, that actually says, in other words, if you're used to eating steak and you can get imitation steak at a lower price, they won't count that elevated price of steak in the inflation rate because they're saying you can get a comparable product for it. It's ridiculous, but you know they try everything to stiff the middle class. As far as if you're asking if our rate, meaning right now we pay 15 point something percent. Actually, I think it's 14 point something percent and a 3% Medicare tax on all income under 100. Well, let me back up. Near 3% taxes on Medicare on all income. And notice I said all income. And on Social Security, I think it ends at 110,000 or something like that. And you pay 15 point something percent. If you're working for an employer, the employer pays half, you pay the other half. When you have a company like myself, you pay the whole darn thing. And again, I don't have a problem with paying taxes at all because, I mean, I do my part. When I was doing very well in my software business, I had no problem paying ridiculously high taxes. Now that I'm a full-time activist and really don't make any real money per se, don't pay as much taxes as I paid before. So the thing about it is, folks, taxes are a good thing. Taxes is what makes this country go around, and we should be proud. Those of us who can afford to pay taxes should be proud to do it. And what we should also do, however, is ensure that we elect people who are good stewards of our monies. And it's our responsibility. It's we the people, not they the politician decide. We the people decide who we're going to send up there, and we have to remember that duty. We have to remember that it's we who do that. Bruce again. Oh yes, there are too many baby boomers not to worry. We will all be dead in 30 years. I don't know. I think people are going to be living a long time. Mike Seeksack, 10K baby boomers retire each month. Yes, a ton of people retire each month. Let's see. Michael Rudden, just when I thought the student loan crisis couldn't get worse. How college loans got so evil. He brought an article. I haven't seen that one yet, but I'll read it. Michael Rudden said, when you get a chance, please give this Adams Ruins Everything video a watch. I will do that for sure, Michael. I really want to see that. Surely it can't be better than yesterday's show. I hope so. Thank you, Daniel. I know you're kind of off-putting me there, but I'll take the compliment, my dear my dear conservative brother. Ledo also says, you are aware that college is NIW so expensive is because of government loans. Not really. I know that's the theory that they like to put out there in the conservative media. Ask yourself, whenever the state decides to give cuts, let's look at Texas. Ledo, you're here in Texas. When the state decides to cut the budget, what's the first thing they cut? The cash cow, which is what? Higher education and regular education. They cut it, and they're cutting it to the bones. And you know what they did the last time until a Republican called them out on it? A good Republican from Fort Worth called them out. Dan Patrick wanted to say, we lowered taxes. We lowered your rates, your real estate, your rates, etc. And within the budget that they wrote, they actually say, but each school district is going to have to raise their taxes to cover what we took away. Think about that. The dishonesty, the immorality of what was done there. Okay. Daniel Ledo, if most Americans were progressives, why did Hillary not win? Actually, she did win. She got more votes than Trump by over 3 million votes. Don't believe it, 2.9 million. It's over 3 million votes. When you count, they all not counted, all that good stuff. Hillary won more votes than Trump. Trump won the Electoral College. That doesn't make a majority. Okay? So the fact is, more people voted for Hillary, and there are a lot of progressives, a lot of them I know personally, who voted for Trump because they simply couldn't stomach Hillary. I voted for Hillary in as much as I don't like Hillary. I voted for her. I fulfilled, not only that, I supported her on Daily Kos. I supported her at egbertowillies.com. I supported her at the Liberal Network. I supported her at Oped News. Because I knew of the two, she would have been better. And when those people who invested in politics done right and sent me to the convention in Philly, they knew in as much as I was going as a Bernie supporter that I would do the right thing that was best for the country, the right things that was best for the party. And I would always do that. Okay, Daniel, you say laughable. If most Americans were, progressives. Look, you know what? You don't even know yourself, Mr. Ledo. You are also a progressive, and I just have to ask you a few questions to prove it. All right. Hillary was particularly progressive. While I'm not an optimistic as Egberto, his point is that progressive tentpole policies resonate with the majority of people. 3/5 is a commonly cited number, which is the case, Mr. Thielman. Okay, let's see. So you're saying that we should revise the 5 to 8% unemployment under Obama even higher? I just want truth, Mr. Ledo. That's all I want, truth. If those are the real numbers, I'll take it. I don't need to hide anything. I am not like an Obama bot or something like that. Obama did some very good things, and Obama also did some not very good things as well. And you know I've called that out already. Let's see, Pollard again. How much does SS cost the country? A bunch. I don't remember what percentage of the budget, but it's very large. I think it's about equal to annuities 20 years ago. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And, we're running out of time. Let me see if there's anyone that I want to get over to you guys real quickly. I tell you what, guys, I will answer all of these. Bruce again. So millennials are not pulling their weight for Social Security. I know Medi water is loosening. Dale Fo. I'll read that later because I couldn't follow completely. But folks, let me tell you, it's not that millennials are not doing their jobs. Millennials are more than doing their jobs. Okay, I am flabbergasted that some people, and I know that's not you, Bruce, have given millennials such a hard time. They've had a hard time. You may look at a lot of what they're doing as slacking, but if you were given the world that these guys were given, a lot of you would be slacking. You know, I mean, when you sit down, I remember talking to my daughter one time, asking her, what do a lot of these millennials think? And then she said, they think that they just live for today because there's nothing going to be there for them tomorrow. The boomers done took it all. If you take a look at the GI Bill and all the good things that happened under the boomer generation and the other generations, and right now all they ever hear of is cutting. We always had programs being built to build us up, to invest in us. I'm going over by 2 minutes, to invest in us. All millennials hear is we're going to cut this and we're going to cut that. All millennials know is they saw a whole bunch of people working their butts off and leaving them many times to raise themselves. So when we talk about these guys not holding their own, these guys are a product of us. And in a lot of ways, we failed them. And until we realize that they're not the enemy, they shouldn't be called slackers. I mean, a lot of the things that they're doing is slacking, but that didn't happen by osmosis or just happen because that generation is that way. That is something we created. It's the same thing when people talk about all the violence in the ghetto and how those people, they try to make them inherently those people. That is just something we created. We created that violence. We created all those negative socioeconomic problems. And it is us who should be solving those negative socioeconomic problems. Before I leave, one quick thing, folks. This is a progressive show that I ask you to support. I ask you to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Be a member. I need hundreds of them to make this continue to be viable. I need hundreds of supporters. Actually, I really need about 1,000 supporters to make this a viable thing. I ask, just get us a coffee a month or something like that. Get us a coffee one time if that's all that you want. But go ahead and invest in Politics Done Right. We do important work just like they do at Majority Report, just like they do at TYT. I don't ask you to do anything that I don't do myself. I support the Majority. I support Op-Ed News. I support dailycost.com. I support the democraticunderground.com. I support coffeepartyusa.com. Support a couple of the Democratic parties, etc. And I'm asking you to help out as well to support something that is going to move it forward. Remember what we do. We bring you real info. We bring exposure to progressive politicians. We go out there into the fields where we need to. In fact, I think tomorrow we will be going to a Republican event here in town. I may get some videos, and if anything that of interest, I may just play it on the show tomorrow. But folks, again, please support Politics Done Right. Go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politics done right. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And guess what? I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.